recently found myself obsessed with the Need for Speed franchise again after several years of disinterest in it, with the exception of playing Hot Pursuit Remastered with friends as a sort of party game. And I thought it would be a good time to give Need for Speed Unbound a chance after totally dismissing it when it was revealed. My main concerns with the game were A, does it hold up to its competition, and B, does it satisfy my sudden and totally unexpected interest in car culture and street racing. Before I start diving into the game, I want to make it clear that I didn't touch the multiplayer features at all during my time with the game. I simply wasn't interested. I wanted an open world to explore alone in a car I built with my own two virtual hands. That being said, the game surpassed my expectations with the world it presents. The city of Lakeshore is fun to explore and offers surprisingly strong variety in its landscapes and roads that feel like they were designed to be driven at safe speeds instead of triple digits. The game also presents a visual style that is strikingly unique in the modern racing landscape, making the game instantly recognizable among not only other titles under the Need for Speed name, but competing titles in the genre overall, which is something I can't easily say for games like Forza Horizon 5 or its direct competitor, the Crew Motorfest. I often get them confused when looking at footage. While the idea of cars sprouting graffiti wings upon triggering nitrous or the Borderlands-esque characters may not be the most universally appealing design choices, they do make the game stand out in a genre crowded with bland, uninteresting sequels. This does not, however, save the game from what is easily its greatest fault. Just like the game's visual presentation instantly stands out, so does the game's writing.
Hey, who's getting rich tonight, huh? You? You, bro? You, bro? Woo! If you know, you know! Hey!
Yo. Looks like Alec replaced me already. Did I look that ridiculous?
Yes, absolutely. They're dropping a fortune to stop us.
What do we do if it works?
I don't know. Put a crew together, save the world, race home, pop a cold one, talk about family, eat barbecue, do the same thing, only different like 8, 9 times. Let's show them how we do things in the lake.
Characters often say things that are so insane or outlandish that they could only be some kind of parody or inside joke that I don't understand.
Mr. Parker, can you tell us what your policies are going to be if you're elected?
So, look, it's important to remember one thing. Why we're here, and that is, we need to go back to basics. You know, those basics are going to be, basic. With a view to making sure we never lose sight of what is important. Our freedom.
Yet, by the time I had beaten the game, I was actually less convinced that this whole plot was an elaborate joke, thanks in part to A$AP Rocky's long end-credit speech, that they also chopped up to use as dialogue in a separate mission, but that's a small sin in comparison. The game seems to be taking itself seriously enough to attempt to make a direct political statement, but then immediately turns around and cracks some of the shittiest jokes I've ever heard. There's also an entire nostalgia bait side mission where you recover Razor's BMW M3 GTR from Most Wanted 2005.
Hey, nice work. The client's really happy we got that car for them.
Maybe because I've done a lot of these, but you know, I got a weird sense I've done this in a past life or something.
I found out some background on this one.
Oh yeah?
Some guy just got released from jail, and the first thing he wanted was this car.
Well, he's got it now.
Hopefully that's the last we hear from him. He sounded like he meant business.
I feel like we're living on the razor's edge with some of these collections.
This is
That one felt a little too
This
dangerous.
is
even
upsetting
for
me.
us.
I crashed my car into a wall because of how bad this dialogue is. Fuck you. Which is just like, really? And let's circle back around to the end credits real quick too. A$AP Rocky's speech is considerably longer than you would expect it to be. I did listen to the whole thing, and the game bugged and kept playing it after I went past the credits into the game again, so I was in the garage listening to him talk on repeat. But it honestly appears very genuine and meaningful. However, it is also totally neutered by EA's censorship of any words in said speech that would drop them from a T for teen rating. Sounds totally counterintuitive, right? Ending your game with a popular figure's strong-worded speech is an attempt at aligning yourself with their virtues and ideals, only to censor that very same speech for the sake of earning more sales. The game's biggest fault is only going half-send on its messaging. Now that my obligatory hating is out of the way, let's get into the things I actually like about the game. To start with, the game still has very strong car customization, as expected from the franchise at this point, but I feel like it's worth mentioning simply off the fact that none of the other mainstream arcade racers like The Crew or Forza Horizon come anywhere close to giving you this much freedom with your cars. And even on the topic of internal modding, the amount of engines I can throw in a Mark I Golf in Unbound is diabolical. Even the game's livery editor is far better than Forza's is, mostly thanks to giving the player good stickers from the developers themselves instead of relying on the community to painstakingly make them in an outdated system, and get banned for it. I come from playing a lot of Forza Horizon over the years, so anything different than that is really awesome to me, and I love to use the game as a punching bag, because it's a love-hate thing. But on a more serious note, Unbound's customization systems, both visual and performance-wise, are still a staple of the franchise and are the game's biggest strengths. This also answers one of our big questions from the intro. Does the game satisfy my sudden interest in car culture and street racing? I think yeah, it did. Now this brings us to the final big piece of the game that probably should have been the start, but I don't care, and this is my channel. And I'm going to be a little bit of a hater again, but not too much. The actual gameplay. Now that we're this deep into the game as a topic, I think it's fair to say that I definitely enjoyed playing the game itself. The handling model, for example, that the modern Need for Speed titles have set themselves on is great at maintaining arcade accessibility and a higher than expected skill ceiling simultaneously. Cars are easy to learn, but present some challenge to mastering, and this carries over to tuning them as well, but to an admittedly lesser degree. Most importantly, driving in this game is just plain fun. You just feel cool drifting around city streets in a retro Civic Type R, and that matters a lot to me. On the other hand though, the game offers very few events to participate in overall, meaning you end up racing a lot of the same layouts several times through several classes, whether you want to or not, by the time you're racing in the final S+ tier. Due to the structure of the game being split into days and nights for a total of 48 sessions. This means that you get to do sets of races for various prize pools every session with varying levels of heat gained for each race, like a gambler choosing which tables to play every night. If you win, you can still lose by getting busted, as in a lot of Need for Speed titles, and having all of the cash you won that session confiscated. If you're like me, that can sometimes be $150,000, which you might or might not need at the time you lost it. Thankfully I didn't, but that's unrelated. This is where most of the game's actual difficulty comes from. Once you figure out how to build a decent car, you can basically win every race by playing what I like to call how many ways can I kill A$AP Rocky in a street race.
That's alright, I'm still right behind you. Oh, so it's like that, huh?
This basically results in the police being your only real threat, and even that goes away in S Plus tier because just like in Fast and Furious 3 Tokyo Drift, if you can drive fast enough, the cops won't even try. I honestly think that's pretty cool though, because you have to risk getting impacted by stupid traffic AI in order to go fast enough to get the cops to give up. It's also just another way to make you feel really cool, so that's another plus. Aside from races and car deliveries, like with the M3 GTR mentioned earlier, both of which I found the most enjoyable that the game offers, there are also drift competitions and takeovers hosted by A$AP Rocky. The drift events are mostly off-road for some reason, and it doesn't tell you when there's a difference between off-road or on-road, mostly because it doesn't matter. Drift cars behave the same on dirt or tarmac or anything in between. There's no change. This did lead me to only do a handful of drift events, because one was on a mountain pass, one was on a figure 8, and the other I did for a high cash prize. Takeovers, however, were basically just smash the most shit to win competitions, and while they weren't boring, they also weren't really my cup of tea, so I only did them when they offered easy money, or a lot of money, or a car as a prize. In a more condensed form of all that information, the game offers a very interesting and fun world on the surface, but very little to do within it. Once you beat the campaign especially, there isn't much incentive to even participate in the multiplayer racing, or even play the game again single player. At least I didn't find any. But despite that, I enjoyed the game far more than I expected to overall, and would still consider playing it over again despite the lackluster story and characters. This now answers our second big question. Does the game hold up to the competition? I think it depends on what you're looking for. Unbound offers a smaller, more focused experience than games like Horizon 5 or the Crew Motorfest, but that may be exactly what you want. In my case, it was exactly what I wanted. I wasn't looking for grand scale and massive environments and a large car list. I was looking for deep customization and fun city streets, and that's exactly what I got. So what's the point? Why am I making this video? Put simply, I love racing games. I've been playing racing games almost as long as I've been able to hold a controller. And I tried something a little out of my usual realm of the genre thanks to a Game Pass trial, and found it so compelling that I just had to talk about it. But there's a little more to it than that. I've never made a video like this before, and I figured now was as good a time as any to try talking to nobody about nothing in particular. So if you like the way I do this and want more of it, let me know. I'll be sure to deliver. Thanks for watching. Have a good one.